Hello, my name is Matthew Flansburgh. I am a product guy, product person, hashtag OCD backpacker, post Superstition trip, and I learned a lot. We learned a lot. 2 out of a projected 15 made it. I was one of the 2. We had some equipment stuff, we had some injuries, not in our group, but in a adjoining group that was supposed to meet us. We learned from this. We learned of the problems that they had and can't blame them. Had equipment failure, shoe, wet feet, an injury. We're here to talk about why we do this. So just like in product management, when we finish something, that's the best time for us to learn. So I like to do data. I utilize the surfaces around me. So I walked in with 31.2 base poundage, 5 pounds of clothes, 4.5 pounds of food roughly, and about 3.3 pounds of water. So I walked in with 49 pounds and I didn't complain. You know, whenever you get done with these trips, they'll always ends up being ultralight. Sure, we're gonna talk about that, absolutely. In fact, I think there's some principles there that can be learned from and adapted here very well. And I know for a fact that I'm going to be going in a lot lighter next year, but way before then, as we build up to a sequel to our previous trip. So what do we got here? Okay, I'm going to break it down, and then we're going to kind of set up the pod, and I'll kind of go through each system and how I can improve.
Sleep systems. That's what we're here to talk about, is sleep systems. So this is ridiculous by any stretch of the imagination as far as number of products, weight, 9.43 pounds for all of these things. Yeah. So this is where the ultralight virus can infect your brain and start to like make you. It kind of turns into a golem of a sense. Where the precious is lightweight. And there's reasons why people gravitate towards that. And I know this is giving somebody a heart attack right now. Instead of this being a retrospective on just my equipment though, I figured the best way to approach this episode is from more of a conceptual, catch you up as the companion or my friend on the trip, so that you understand what these things are, and before you go out and buy anything, this will give you a perspective on the reasoning why these things exist to begin with. So my sleep system here is very custom, and I have no regrets by any means, because there's a utility in this, just not for 27-mile backpacking trips. Briefly go through this. I'm going to do an entire video breaking it down in and of itself, because my wife did a lot of craftswomanship on this. So from an overview standpoint though, there are 9 items here and weighing a total of 9.43 pounds, which is ridiculous. So one of those items is this bag. I mentioned in the previous video, this was picked up at REI. I believe his name was Dylan, and this was the REI in near Tempe, Phoenix Tempe border. And he went in the back and he says, I showed up with the mat, which is I'll show you that in a second. And I said, hey, do you have anything that worked for this? And he said, let me go check the back. And this was an extra mat, so free item, so to speak. But thank you, Dylan. I appreciate this very much. It does fit the switchback and the wool flannel bivy that my wife made. So those things go nicely, and now it has a waterproof bag. But again, that costs weight. Behind that is the sleeping bag. This is a NEMO 30, and it's an older model. The temperatures did drop below 25 for at least one night while we were there. This was a little cold. It broke that barrier where I was not super comfortable at night. And that's okay, because that's not rated for that temperature. And so I was quite happy with its performance at temperature right around 30, but below that, it was not as comfortable. This is a down sleeping bag. And if you don't know the difference between down and synthetic, the biggest, well, if you are able to get a down bag, and the benefits of a down bag are twofold. First, the thermal properties are amazing. And second, it crushes down momentarily while you're on your hike to a very small form, small dimension. So the compression ability of it and the thermal properties. Now, if it gets wet, you're in trouble. That is the downside. It's not going to dry as fast as a synthetic as well, but synthetics are bulkier. They're cheaper. You can get similar thermal properties, but you trade off size, money, and weight. So that being said, in response to that, and I just all the materials, the sleeping materials, some of these materials just don't feel good to me at night. And so I had two problems I'm solving with this. One the temperature thing. So picked up this THERMOLITE BIVY reactor. Haven't tested it yet, but this will solve any questionable gap between another sleeping bag that I have and this. So this will allow that bag itself too to go 14 degrees lower. So this will solve the feeling as well, because this is a different material. It's like a nice soft, feels like a flannel, like a really thin flannel. So it's really nice feel to it. Other parts of a sleep system. Now, what's essential? Okay, hold it back just for a second. What's essential? You want your bag. That's one of the big three. I think essentially you need a sleeping pad. This is a blow up REI 3.7 R value blow up pad. This is great for the desert in the middle of summer. It's fairly light, 14 ounces, I believe, something like that. Real quick. No, 19.95. But it does the job. On this trip, and the reason why we created the BIVY was twofold. I had a lot of things. I wanted to test out the switchback as a secondary. So that kind of brings back to that. The secondary is a fold out, accordion style. It's got a reflective layer one side. And this folds out. And I find that these in tandem are really the way to go. So if I were to go in with just the bare minimum, I would have my bag, I would have a pad, blow up pad, the sack that blows it up. So this is a dual purpose sack, and I'll do an individual write up on this as well, but this is a dry sack and it's a pump. Oh. And it works really simply. This fits into, this guy fits into the nozzle here in the pad. And all you have to do is blow into the bag and then roll it up. And it gets a nice sack of air in there. I think it took 3 or 4 pumps. So, bravo on this product. Anything that has dual functionality, dry sack and a pump, oh, that's great. That's what we're looking for, folks. That's really kind of beyond ultralight. I think dual functionality is something that's just super nice to have, and that's just makes this product amazing. I have a surprising amount of Sea to Summit products, and it's funny because I don't seek them out. They end up in my pack. And in doing spreadsheets, you find out, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that I had so many Sea to Summit products, but yet here we are. So back to the pack. One thing that is non-essential, but friends, when we're on, let me tell you the importance of the sleeping system itself, beyond the products. You're spending 1/3 of your time sleeping, and it's going to be in places that you're not normally sleeping. So your brain is going to go back into reptilian times, and it's going to want to be on alert the first few nights, typically, of any new place. And so if you're through hiking, you're not going to get deep REM, like super safe, I'm in my cave, safety zone sleep. You're going to get borderline sleep where parts of your brain are still active going, okay, is there something out there? Even though threats may not exist, I think it's deeply rooted in our DNA that we are not fully getting deep sleep. So the worst thing you can do in that situation is be uncomfortable on top of it. So the reason why your bag is so important is because you need that safety layer, you need comfortability, and you can't sacrifice that for being light, in my perspective. You can find your threshold barrier, but once you breach that comfort barrier, you're done for, and it'll ruin a trip. And that's the last thing we want, is to ruin a trip, or to have new hikers come in ill-prepared or under-prepared and have a bad time, because here you go through all the money, the expense, the time, the thought, vacation time, all that stuff, and here you are wanting to have a good time, and you find out that maybe you should have brought something that you didn't think about, or things like that. So with that all being said, when you do get your sleep system, pitch your tent in your backyard, do a test run, sleep in your backyard, sleep somewhere, and before you go out, and really test your stuff. That's going to be the great thing. And I will say to REI, if you are kind to your equipment and you don't like it, or if it doesn't work out, or if it wasn't up to expectation, take it back to REI. If it's in good working order and you didn't abuse it, they will gladly exchange it and try to make you happy with an alternative product, or just giving your money back. So things that you don't necessarily need, but things that I need a pillow. I've been through a number of pillows. This is the AEROS pillow, and pillows in general. There's a lot of them out there. I like the blow up ones because space. It's not necessarily the weight; it's the space. I like the compact nature of the blow up. It blows up. Plus, it goes in tandem with a custom pillowcase that my wife made. So these things add comfort, and for me and my neck, I need a pillow. I actually need two. Need is a relative word though, right? So there's ways to get around certain other things, and I'll show you how to do that later, but that's another video. So we're talking about essentials. Pillow is not essential, but on that test night, you'll find out if pillow is what you need. There's a number of them out there. I prefer this one, but that's just because I've tried a few. It's lightweight, it's big, it's got the form fits into the sleeping bag head, so it kind of just fits. So it's a working system, and I'm happy about that. So the last two items are pillowcase that my wife sewed, and this is cool because you basically slide this in, and I will demonstrate this in a few moments and set this up outside. This will slide in, and then you can blow it up inside, basically locking this in, and then I've got myself a nice quilted pillow cover. Now the reason why I have a pillowcase to begin with is that the downside with this is it's such a thin material. If you're wearing sunscreen or mosquito repellent or anything that you're wearing is going to get into this pillow, and it will stain it. I promise you, that stuff, zinc oxide, there's things out there that will stain this. Not that it matters, but if you want it to look nice and not like turn into just different colors and stuff like that, I would highly recommend some sort of case for this. Be warned, I told you first. But anyways, it doesn't take away from the functionality, which is really the key. So that, and then we've got this massive, oh boy, yeah, this is 2.5 pounds. But, folks, I'm gonna blow your socks off. Yeah, you can say that. So, it's a custom bivy in which both the REI Flash, which is the blow-up mattress, and the switchback fit inside of it. So I think that wraps it up for my system. So, okay, you say, Matt, that's too heavy. It's 9.43. What should I do? Well, if you want to go to the extreme, Adventure Allen or Allen Adventures, I'll have the link. I think that is pretty much the current conclusive list of, okay, if money was not an option, this is what I would have in my pack. So I'm not going to try to emulate that, but currently there is, for his ultimate pack, I think it's a THERMOLITE blow-up mattress, which has an R value of 5.7, I believe. It's fairly light. I think it weighs just about 4 or 5 ounces more than this. So there's your mattress. And then they're recommending certain types of, what do you call them, quilts, which is like a sleeping bag, different approach. Straps around, there's some that zip, but there's a bunch of manufacturers out there, but you're looking at $400 plus bags. So for $600, yeah, you can get a 20-degree bag and a 5.7 rated mattress. For sure, it's just a matter of money, and that would bring you down into the sub 3 or 4 pound range realistically. Now, I would still continue to use the switchback thing, or a similar unit to it, which is, I mean, there's a number of them on the market. Just because I love my sleep, I value it. It's such a necessary component. I don't mind a little bit of the weight on the sleep side as long as I'm comfortable, right? So that'll wrap it up with this demo. Let's zip this, do some kind of transition, and bang. So as a kid, I spent a lot of time in the Colorado mountains with my dad. And we moved to Arizona in '87. So I spent even more time doing desert hikes, desert hunts. Pretty much spent a lot of time in the desert. And there, water is essential and almost necessary to have a bladder of sorts. That's regional, not absolutely necessary, but yeah, they're almost absolutely necessary. The only downside to a bladder, and we're going to talk about all these different new water systems that have come out in the past few years, which are fantastic. But let's talk a little bit about a bladder in general. This is a 3-liter bladder, Platypus. I like it. I got the Osprey 70 AETHER is made for a 2-liter, and so putting this in causes a little bit of pressure, and I'll demonstrate that in the video that we set up the bed system, and I'll bring the backpack out and show you how this kind of fits in. But in general, bladders are advantageous because they're easy. This will attach, twist the knob, and you've got water, twist it off. The other side is it's next to your back, it's in your pack, it's not external. So freezing, sometimes if you're in freezing temperatures, it's gonna not freeze because it's near your, kind of insulated in your pack, so to speak. The downside is though, and this is the huge downside that could ruin a trip, is that this tube can come undone. And I've had some minor leaks, never a complete failure, but this right here could ruin a trip if this fails and you have your sleeping bag in the bottom and it's made of down. So this is a real problem, can be a real problem. So be cognizant of that when you make your decisions. There is an elegance, there's certainly a convenience of having a bladder. Outside of, if you have plenty of water around though, you don't need a bladder. So if you have access to virus-free water like in North America, that's where this as a group option, this is an MSR, this is a pump system, which I've just got sticker shock on myself. Everything's been inflated, right? For group applications, this pump is brilliant. It fits right on to Nalgene, and you can fill that Nalgene bottle with water. You throw this in a pond, you fill that, and you go, and you've got 2 minutes away from filling your Nalgene bottles up. So this is great if you have 5 or 6 people. You only need one of these. You need two. Back up. Prospector Daniels failed. He had his for over a decade, and it failed on this last trip, just due to fatigue. I mean, he took that thing 6 months in Australia, so, and that was a long time ago. So his finally quit. So thank God we had two. We would have been fine without. We had water purification tabs and other things. However, yeah, one of these are great. So, but solo hiking or 2 people, or this is overkill. This type of pump is overkill, and it weighs a lot. So we're talking, the downside is it weighs a lot. It's 24 ounces, 685 grams. So it is heavy. But it's ultra comfortable. That's the only thing that's uber comfortable. There's the rest of this is okay. It's standard camping, hiking stuff. Moving on, the Nalgene bottles themselves, 6.3 ounces. These are bulletproof. They're old. The lid finally gave out on this last trip. It wasn't holding water. Well, and I can't find the leak. I think it's got to be the lid. So they'll test a new lid, replacement on REI. And then you've got this little guy at 0.3 ounces. And it's just a SPLASHGUARD. It's dirty. I just had it for so long. It's clean but dirty. It's campfired. So it fits right on the end there. Isn't that cute? Well, it's cute, and it also has a purpose. It keeps the water from splashing all over your face and down the side of your, mouth, all over your shirt and stuff. So it's cute. It's light. I actually recommend that. That's a product I'd recommend. The other stuff, it's just, hey, it is what it is. These things weigh though, right? So this sleeve, let's see, 10 ounces. 10 ounces empty. And then a liter of water is 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. So just add 2.2 pounds per liter. Now let's get to the hydration. This is part of the kind of post-mortem where I'm like, okay, let's really think about these. They're good. I like them. I've used them for a long time. However, my biggest gripe with this type of hydration tabs is that they take a long time to dissolve. If you have the patience for them, they're fine. But here's what really happens in real life. You get to a creek, you're thirsty, you're out of water. If you're got your pump systems, you're fine. You're just like, we need to get water. So you get to the point where you're tired, you're thirsty, hot, sweaty, blah, blah, blah. You get your water in there and it's cold because it's creek, right? Or lake. And you're, okay, it's cold. So then you drop one of these guys, these tablets, these hard tablets in there. And then you find yourself swirling it for 15, 20 minutes. And it's inconvenience. And it's an unnecessary inconvenience because I chose these things to be my go-to. So I'm going to rethink these. I think the solution to the problem is the dissolve time on them, is just get the ones that come in the little bags, the little tiny satchels, little powder satchel things that are already like crushed, right? So it's already dissolved, ready to dissolve. So I think that would be the improvement I'd make. So I've showed you what I have. What are the alternatives? There are some really cool bag systems out there. Sawyer makes a great system and it's cheap. I mean, this is retailing right now for $390. That's crazy. Sawyer makes a couple variations. I've heard that their standard variation is the best because of the flow rate. I haven't tested it. However, I'm interested in testing that because it's $40, $45, and it's really light. It's a couple ounces. So it solves some weight issues. So how the kids solve that problem is they're using smart water bottles, which, you know, if you really think about it, they're ultralight, they're easy to come by, they have a standard nozzle, they're good for a few days, few weeks. People have done months with them. So they're tried and true at this point. Kind of, it's definitely part of the modern kids thing, and that's why I said the kids, because there's some people that are going to cling to their bladders, man. There's going to be diehards, like people who die on the old hills, right? So it's funny to see the evolution, and it happens pretty quickly in this industry, where there's like an eclipse of people adopting a new technology and kind of the older generation stepping back going, that's kind of weird. I don't think it's weird. I think it's pretty brilliant. I don't like the impermanent idea of it because the bottles are disposable. However, if you think about the grand scheme of things, it's still within reason. So yeah, I think the Sawyer system is something that I'm going to be exploring and looking into as an option, especially for solo hiking, right? I don't want to carry in 24 ounces, 685 grams of weight for myself if I don't have to. I don't think you should either. So I think it's volumetric. When you talk about party size, that'll determine kind of what direction you want to go when you're making your hydration decisions. So you can't go backpacking without a backpack. And that's what we're going to kind of review, is just what do you want to look for in a backpack? What's good about this particular pack versus other packs? We'll go over kind of that kind of like 50,000 foot view. So for stabilization, I just have this NEMO switch attached, so it doesn't fold over. So this is an Osprey 70. They make great packs. It's a little over 5 pounds. Some people may think that that's heavy. I think it's really a good normal pack weight, to be truthful. Of course, there are other options out there. And why is this a nice pack? Well, I'll show this at the park, but this is actually 2 packs in one. So this upper pack here folds out, and when we set up the sleeping system, we'll go through this as well. But this detaches and becomes a pack of its own, which is really novel, really, really cool. So conceptually, this system has a huge jump ahead. Not very many packs have this dual system. Conceptually and in reality, it's cool because you can take your full pack in if you're doing, let's say, a 3-night somewhere or something where you have a permanent camp, so to speak, semi-permanent camp, and you want to then do day kind of treks. You'd be able to take this as a separate pack, leave all the frame and all the weight behind it at camp, and then be able to, you know, run off and do what you need with a good day pack. So this is a 2-in-1. It's like a transformer. I'll be pointing out these dual functions, but that's the dual functionality of this pack. What makes this pack good? Well, it's made of really heavy-duty material. I've had this for 5 years, not a single rip. You pay for it in price as far as weight. It's 5 pounds, like I said, a little over 5 pounds. So it's got 2 basic cavities, which can be then actually into one. You can detach inside and make it one huge cavity. But it's got 2 cavities, one accessible through the top, where the hydration system also sits. We'll show that at the park as well in a few minutes. So you get two compartments there, bottom, and then the bottom. In here, there's a zipper that's obscured by pad, but this is where you can put heavy items, your tent, sleeping bag, however you pack your pack. But yeah, that's the compartment on the bottom. So there is an artificial separator you can remove and have a single cavity for 70 liters total. But let's look at finer details. So what makes this pack really, really nice is the support system. It's fully customizable. So before you buy a pack, talk to the people at REI or whatever outfitter you have and get the right fit, because they come with different frame sizes, different lengths. They can be adjusted perfectly to your own fit. And so that's what this pack has gone through, is years of that, hip adjustments, all that. So this thing for me is completely dialed in. There are accessories which I spoke of in episode 1, hero clip, figure out how to nest it in there finally. Firebiner, another itsy lockable carabiner. I put my gloves or something hanging there. It's really convenient for that. This has numerous pouches, which are very convenient. These hip pouches, I won't go without. Hip pouches, regardless, they're so convenient for headlamps at night, for gloves, for batteries, whatever you need to easily access. These hip pockets are great. Rotating a bit, you've got these bottle pockets or other things that have cinches down. So you've got some real estate here on the sides, which is easily accessible. Both those sides look the same. In the front, there's an easy way to access the main pouch without having to uncinch this, because when you pack it up, you want to cinch this down as best you can. And so it's convenient to have a nice, easy access zipper here. But these zippers, as you can imagine, start to add up in weight. And here's where I put another easy access pouch from the front, usually my rain jacket, right here. It's for easy access. Any other things that need slip access. Now the pole system, and I'll bring the poles down too, the pole system latch is my favorite part, because there's a clever way that this thing works, and it really is clever. So it allows me to quickly pull my poles out with the flip of a button. And so that's a nice feature of this pack, is that it's got these pole attachers. Again, rotating, we have our side cinches where you can put water bottles and or poles, other items. Quick access pouch in the front too, so nice, easy. If you get the angle right, you can get a bottle in there. So it's durable. It's not too heavy, but it's got a large cavity, 70 liters, which is for a guy at 145, 5'10". That's as big as I can go, really. I don't need much more. I don't need any more. So 70 is kind of my max limit on anything. I can fit anything into 70. So accessories. So this is kind of fun stuff. They call it ultralight green sack. Okay, fair enough. It's good. This goes with me as well. So it's a rain jacket for my bag. The only downside is it won't accommodate this, and so if it does rain, this it won't barely, and maybe it'll fit. I'll have to test that out. I'll test that out down there at the park and see if it fits. But I suspect with the full new enclosure, with the wool blanket, BIVY, it will not fit. This won't fit over. But that's just one of the downsides. So there'll be alternatives to rain. So there we go. Now this is funny. I was at the REI garage, and this is before the trip, and I asked Daniel, I said, man, I should really get an airport bag. He's like, yeah, they're expensive. I'm like, I know. So I went down to REI, talking to a gentleman down there, and I just said, okay, I'll go look at the garage. Yeah, this was on the garage. Somebody didn't want their airport bag. So this whole thing is a bag for a bag that has bags in it. This is like the ultimate Russian end nesting doll, I should say. I should preface that. So it's like a Russian nesting doll. So bags within bags and covers within covers. It's kind of goofy. So I could put a rain jacket on there and I could put this bag on there. I think you get the point. A little bit of yeah, looks like I'm a fanboy here, and I am, I guess. I don't go around telling people to buy Osprey products, but I will say that the Osprey products that I've bought have all held up, and so I can't complain. I think it's great. This is a 9 or a 10 product, truthfully. The only thing I can really find fault in is in its weight, and I think that I could go light. I mean, the material I could go lighter, for sure. But for a pack, buy it for life. This is it. I could have this pack for the rest of my life and be very proud of it. And so it's great. Perfect as a secondary pack if a friend shows up. If I decide to get a different pack in the future, this is perfect to have for them. Fly into Denver, we can go on a hike. They've got a pack, they don't have to pack there. So yeah. Anyways, great product. If you're looking for a backpack, Osprey makes good ones, but REI makes great products too. There's a lot of good backpacks out there. I think it's best you go and try to immerse yourself and find something that works for you. You can test out weight and do those things over at REI as well. I'm not a paid spokesman for REI, just a fan of how they do business, and all the things I'm saying are true. You can go there, they can put weights in, you can artificially load up, get a feel for what you're looking at. And in truth, if you use it and if not to your specs or liking, and you didn't beat it up and it doesn't have any rips, tears, burn marks, stuff like that, typically they'll be like, okay, what else do you want to try? So, I would say err on getting yourself a bigger bag as opposed to a smaller bag. You will find that just in winter conditions alone, you can add a few pounds of necessary gear that if you're buying something in summer, you may want to reconsider just opening that space up for yourself. But numerous manufacturers out there. I would love to hear what you guys think about a good starter backpack might be. For sure, I've got friends that want me to find them equipment all the time. So yeah, please drop any notes if you'd like, please. That'd be cool to start a conversation. So what I've done is I've placed this switchback accordion style insulation and kind of padding inside the bivy itself. And now I'll show you how easy the bed system is. Now I want you to notice something real quick. Uninflated, this thing is a good foot and a few inches long. So I don't inflate it, I don't put it in the bag and inflate it. I inflate it first and then put it in, I'll show you. And even with wind, this is pretty reasonable. Let's get our air sac, making sure that is closed. And we're going to use the wind to our advantage. There we go. That's one.
I just love this, and if you've ever been out of breath, sometimes the last things you want to do is blow up a mattress. Max capacity. That's how our pump works. So magically this thing is now shrunk to be the perfect size. And I'll show you that. So now we've got the sleep system. Let's finish it. That's our bivy. So now I have a wool, a 2R value pad, an R7 3.7 mattress, super nice. Then of course, let's do pillow next. So this is the fun one, this ultralight pillow. Nice color, and we're going to keep it that way. That's why we invented this pillowcase. It's to keep this thing super nice all the time. So I'm going to put that in there. There you go. Matching pillow. And of course, you notice I like to keep my straps clean and non-snaggy, so I will obsessively roll those. But the final for the sleep system is, of course, Thermarest. And there we have it, a 20-degree sleep system. This pole clamp. And it's a little tiny thing, but it took me a long time to figure out how this actually works. So there's a cinch that cinches down, and the M, this guy, little M there, it goes over that loop. The cords fit cleanly in between those, and then you cinch this down tight. So when you look at the tension between this wrap, now I've wrapped the cords 3 times just so the form factor will fit around there. So this is gravity, got it clamped going down, has it clamped going down, and then we've got this quick release. Now to quick release, you just feel this little point here, and it'll pop right off, and this will come out. And that is the quick detach of the poles. Again, we want the little strap, this guy, to come out and around to pop our poles out. I mentioned my little trick is I wind this 3 times so that the baskets on the poles don't go through. And just a little tip along the way. This bag, actually the first coolest feature, another feature that's cool, is this detachable backpack here. So with 2 clips located on the back, uno, dos, we get this nice handy day pack. But wait, there's more. One more thing. What just happened? Look at that. So these straps come out. Get you a better angle. So basically, these straps come from inside this day pack. Now has 2 pockets, which currently existed right in the top of the bag. We've got our rain jacket, Chum's wallet. But yeah, this is a fully functional with tie downs. They went all out. There we are, strapped fully together, and on top of it, it's hilarious. But this has a hydration pouch. So the 2-liter bladder that comes standard can then be put in here, or that is recommended, I should say, for the pack. But yeah, there's a little day pack. So here we are with the little day pack. It's about as far as I can reach back and see, but complete with hydration pack. It's a pretty cool little system. To pack it back up, it's really easy. I think I could probably do it with one hand. But yeah, straps go back in, and then this folds in as such, allowing it to be zippered. And then remounted on the top of the bag with those 2 clips. Only got a minute before battery runs out. Wish me luck. All right, little bag. So if rain comes like it looks like it's actually really coming, so inside, got a little clip here, and then at the bottom, got yourself a cinch. So you can get your straps and all that in there and still have everything nicely covered up. I'm going to try to put the other thing on BIVY, see if that works. Well, I'll be surprised. It actually works. Yeah, it's not the cleanest fit, but it does actually cover it. I'd probably just walk with it. So I mentioned that I snuck a 3-liter bottle into this bag designed for a 2-liter system. I'll show you the drawbacks of that. It's not major because the benefit, especially like I was mentioning before in desert hiking, is that you have your water and you have a lot of it. But if you have a water source, we discussed, only bring what you need to get there to the water source and replenish there. So there, bladder fits in. And normally this would seat quite further down, and you can tell by that because this little clip here is supposed to keep the bag from sagging. And as you can tell, the bag is not going to sag, at least in this stage with 3 liters in it. So here's where the bendies come in. So there's the quick attachment, which is great. But notice how this bend forms, and that's just going to cause fatigue over time, a little bit of hang-ups. This thing, that's the only drawback, is that this thing gets kinked at a weird angle. But again, I don't find that to be too negative. It's just a side effect of stuffing more water in a sack that's not designed for this. The other downside is this won't fit in the day pack. So another trade-off. So I think the 2 liter for non-desert applications is probably the option, the way to go. But if you need more, you can fit 3 liters in, and I have successfully. I was in the process of working on the cooking system and getting that all set up, and I realized that the old cordage on the little Snow Peak double-walled titanium cups, its little native bag, the cordage, I could replace it with something that's reflective. And I think this is an instance of another dual-plistic sort of anything in our pack that has kind of 2 qualities to it. This is cordage, of course, but then it's reflective. It just makes things, I don't know, it's just kind of cool. It's a 2-factor. So I am in the process of just putting clear shrink wrap because, like I said, this is reflective cordage. And I'm doing this to make it my own little thumb pull to make it easy to use. So in essence, I've locked that down. And I'm just going to use a very simple, good old granny. Because after we fire this down, it won't matter. The threads won't come out or the cords won't come through, which is a big annoyance. So before I fire this in, I'll show you, I do this. There's other ways to reinforce, like for tent stakes. You can see I replaced the native cordage with highly reflective cordage, 2.5 mil, and then added that shrink wrap. Now the reason why I do this is I've had so many over the years, especially if these things are stored in heat or over time, these things will crumble. This gives a little more give, and you can tell if the cord's wearing through and it's time to replace. But it just gives you a little bit extra, I'd say, pounds of pull overall, and it'll definitely deteriorate less. So doing the thumb pull here, we've got our guy right there, our kitchen shears. Let's fire them first. Cool. And we'll shrink wrap this. Cool. A little bit warm. There we go. Nice little thumb pull, non-obstructing with clear. So you can see that at night. Got ourselves a little improvement to the container. All right, yippity-doo-dah, zippity-doo. Hey, here we are talking about cooking systems. Cooking systems. So everybody needs some way to boil water. That is a must. This flash unit by JetBoil is a perfect way to do that. And if all you're bringing in is dehydrated foods, such as this Trailtopia triple berry crisp dessert, this is all you would really need is this stove, and I'll break it open in a second. Secondarily, really, the only thing you really need is one of these. I brought two in, one for dessert, one for dinner. But truly, I don't need but one of those. And you don't need this 0.05 carabiner either. So per 0.045, you got yourself a spoon and a stove. I would say necessarily though, a main Bic lighter. I will never recommend any color other than orange because every other color is bad luck. So in good faith to my entire history of touching lighters, I will never touch a non-orange lighter. So orange lighter is a must. This is primary pocket. This is great. Safety's on, which is fine. The backup in the medical or the survivor kit, safety's off, just because in cold weather this can actually be kind of a bummer. But anyways, to be known, for you to know, yeah, any kind of like real survival situation, you don't want that bracket on your lighter, because your thumb sometimes gets so cold, you're shivering, and you don't want this to keep you from lighting a fire and getting out another tool and being cold. So yeah, point being, my own lesson learned. So lighter is a must. Backup. The reason why I have this is because if your lighter fails, and if the piezo fails on a stove, you've got this beautiful piece of artwork here. I always mix it up which way to go. Yeah, there we go. It's got an arrow on it. So this is a great backup. And I've used this numerous times now. I marvel at this. This is just a fire beaner. It's really fun. It's cool. The only thing that keeps this from a 10 is that it doesn't have a locking mechanism on the carabiner itself. It's got a super strong spring, but I'd like to see a locking mechanism to make that a 10. Cord works. Screwdriver I'm sure works. But really, truly, this thing is a fire stick, so to speak. So that's nice to have. I would highly recommend having some sort of magnesium striker of sorts to get these things going. So let's take this thing apart. Oh yeah, and then finally, in this last trip, unnecessary for most people objectively, but the reason why I like this 3-cup system, and I just demonstrated putting the reflective cord on it. The reason why I really love this system is I've got 1 cup. This could be for my watercolors or gouache, which I'm about to demonstrate in another video. And then I've got 2 cups, one for drinking and the other for oatmeal or whatever you want to have in that can be cleaned, right? So again, another version of Russian nesting dolls and a clean kind of thing. But these things are truly unnecessary if all you need, so we can put that aside, if all you need is things that you need, realistically I would get only down to those things for a trip that uses dehydrated products like this. Why? Okay, so let's look at this stove. Why is it so cool? It's very simple in its design. Put that in the background for now. So it's got a little tripod friend here. Fits in the bottom of this. And on top of that tripod thing, this thing fits nicely inside the case itself. But now we're like, okay, this is where we attach our fuel system. And then this swings out from its nesting point, and we get a little pop, and this thing will seat. There we go. So there we have a nice little tripoded gas stove. Now this comes apart and seats nicely. There's a little bump there. Put that, line it up, twist it, and you've got yourself a whole system. So this will boil. You can turn it on and off, modulate temperature or the flow. This isn't a temperature controlled system. This is on or off. And so you turn it on. It's got a little bit of difference, but what I mean by that is it's designed to boil water fast. And it'll boil water within a couple minutes, depending on elevation, temperature, and all that stuff. One cool feature of this is this, let me span up, is this little gradation thing here. It will start to turn colors when the water is boiling. So they've dialed this in perfectly for the temperature. So that's kind of a fun little feature. You know it's boiling. You can boil with, if it's snowing or if it's raining out and you're kind of exposed, you put a cover on it, or if you don't want to boil over, that cap suffices for that. So this is a really fun system for boiling water. And so why would somebody want something different? Like, okay, Matt, that's great. That's really cool. You got this really awesome system here. What could possibly be better? Well, there's a number of things that we would consider to be quote unquote better. One, on the stove itself, there's a couple ways we make it better. We can make it smaller. We can go smaller, lighter. We lose functionality. This is a very robust system. This system works. It's reliable. I like it. So the smaller the stove, the less features, the less kind of consistency, the more problems you might have, but you gain some less weight, right? You lose weight. There's other systems that just have different properties. Some have the modulation properties that you can kind of dial in the heat and temperature. So if you do have an actual pan, if you're cooking sausages or whatever, you want to cook something in the morning, eggs, and you want to control the temperature, this wouldn't be the system that I would recommend. There's other things out there that we can explore in the future. But for pure, just, you know, I need to boil water and I need to boil quite a bit of it, this flash system is amazing. I can't complain. So places where this would be useful, typically if you have bears or bear country, you just want to boil water and then, you know, you don't want to go through cooking and cleaning food in bear country or other predator type scenarios. So there's, you know, yet depending on the trail you go on, I'm sure, please look it up. But of course, you find out where you're going, you find out what the restrictions are, and you find out if you need a bear canister or not. That'll guide you on this kind of stove or not. The other stove will work, though, just to boil water, just to be mindful. So if you have a more robust situation or a more robust solution that's a little bit more multi-purpose, then we're going to try to look at that and talk about that in the future. So yeah, but this is, like I said, perfect for dehydrated foods. Before you go out and buy a chair, this chair, any chair, you may or may not be a chair person. If you're younger, you may get away with the mat trick where you get a foam pad and you do that thing, but I do not like that. In fact, I don't think anybody that I know likes that at all. I think it's one of these, like, honestly, I think it's weird. I don't like sitting on a mat. It doesn't work. Yeah, maybe I'm older. Hey, that's fine. But before you buy a chair, any chair for that matter, this is what I would consider to be one of the highest, best end chairs out there, but it's not without its problems. Like, it certainly has problems that are, there's not too many fixes to. But before we talk about the problems of this chair, let's talk about the benefits. It's super light, 1.14 pounds, that's 616 grams. Yeah, let's dig into it real quick. So, bag out of the case. Simple enough. Magnetically starts snapping together like a weird spider with a mind of its own sometimes. Here's the chair. And there's an opportunity for me to demonstrate tenacious tape in the future for an episode. So what's cool about this chair? Well, its weight is super light. It sits low. So I'll have some shots of me sitting in this and sitting down. So for larger gentlemen or ladies, I would recommend you looking at other options, because this does sit low. And talking with Chris, he had this chair. He later replaced it with something else that was bigger and sat higher. So that's kind of a down point. Now, the biggest down point to this, and it's not this particular chair design, it's all of them, is that these legs, the surface area is less than a dime, like an old Mercury dime. Touching the ground, these things in wet conditions or muddy conditions, these things act like a spike. And the final night in the Superstitions, this thing creeped up and just sank. And so I found myself constantly figuring out, okay, well, get rocks, put them underneath, but you know, you settle with your chair, the rocks come undone. So that was a really interesting problem. I wouldn't say it's not unique to this chair. It's problematic in all of them because inherently by design. Now, I made the mistake of jumping the gun and actually not following my own philosophies, because I tell you what, I got drawn into hype, and without really reading too deeply into the weight of these things, I mean, this is sad. But this is the solution, one solution, and I think it's the wrong solution for me. 57 grams. 2 ounces, dead on the money, 2 ounces. So for 8 ounces, which is half this weight already, for 8 ounces, in perspective, 25% of my journey needed these. So one day, I could have had some mud flaps or what mud. This solves the problem. And it's honestly, it's hilarious and cool, and it's great branding. But I'm embarrassed that I even bought this. Not because it's not a good product, but because it's antithetical to the entire philosophy of this chair. It falls on the face of what it's supposed to be to solve the problem. So there's other solutions out there that I'm going to explore. I'm actually returning these. I'm not going to use them. I felt so guilty about buying them because they're expensive, but I thought, okay, they're it's okay. I'm going to forgive myself for making this choice. I usually am very, very conscious of the things that I purchase, and this was just one of those things that I'm like, I wasn't even drunk. I haven't drank in months, so I can't blame it on that. I think I just thought, oh, they'd be cute, you know? One of those cutesy things. So anyways, moving on. Those will get returned. I'm glad I got it out of the system. That'll be part of the bigger write-up when I sit down. But you need a chair if you have any issues with your knees, hips. You're going to need a chair. It's a fact. I think some of you guys can challenge me. I'm a yoga instructor. I just sit on my knees all day, and whatever. Do your thing. For most normal humans that I've talked to, like every normal person, not that you're abnormal for wanting to sit on a stupid mat. Do whatever you want to do. But for this hombre here, chairs are where it's at. Now, REI makes the equivalent. I think they have the exact same design, but this is turned, and it's an A-frame version. I broke one in a different part of a different video that I think had a stress fracture that was at the factory, or it emerged really quickly. Anyways, that thing broke. And that's the first chair that's ever busted on me. And I think it could have just been a minor flaw. Oops, whoa. Wow. All right, well, guess what? Going to REI. Gonna go see if they'll fix it for free. I don't know, we'll find out. But that's kind of interesting. Wasn't expecting that, but thank God that happened here, you know? Seriously, thank God this happened at the house. Look at that. So here is the cool aspect of this. I am going to test out, along with my Patagonia sweater that I'm wearing, and the cool fleece hoodie that I have as well. And then I've got a pair of Prana pants. What are they? Yeah, Prana pants. And now I've got this chair. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to include this in the Big League turnaround challenge, where I submit broken or damaged equipment and test out their return policies. See what goes on with that. Return and repair. So This is beyond repair for certain. That aluminum has now failed pretty spectacularly. And in truth, it's very odd that this would have happened because this chair is brand new. It's only been used a handful of times by my daughter. But c'est la vie. Like I said, these things, this is a blessing. You imagine being on a 27-mile trek and losing your chair. Yeah. Minor flaw, manufacturing defect, or whatever, because it's only been used twice. I've had this for 5 years plus, maybe now. I have to look at the history, but yeah, maybe even 6 years. This thing's just a beast. I love it. Get yourself a chair, but find something that's comfortable. Find something that you can tolerate the weight. Keep it under 2 pounds, ideally, realistically, just because you will pay for it. So look at deals, look at, different options, but comfort cannot be compromised. Now, for the problem we were just discussing, there's like a strap solution I've seen that connects all 4 of these and it ties down, which is cool because it creates surface tension. And realistically, what you want is you don't want to have these little tiny pinpoints where they can go into soft dirt. You want that spread out. And so I think there's probably some opportunities for some 3D printing that would be super light and cheap. I haven't looked into that, but I think that is a more realistic option for mud, or coming up with some sort of improvisational option. But the problem is this: in muddy conditions, these chairs will sink, period. So there's many ways to approach that problem. I think we're gonna just kind of wait and see and kind of research it a little bit more, but the vibrant things won't work. In the context of essential and non-essential gear, this is where this is choose your own adventure land. I like poles. I like distributing the load to my torso. I've got a bad hip. So for me, this just allows an option to put more load on other places throughout a journey in case I do kind of feel fatigued in a certain area. This can help kind of leverage different parts of my body to make up for that, really. So these are cheat sticks for sure at a little over a pound. I cannot fault the Cascade Mountain Tech Costco carbon fiber special things. They're great. I probably should rate them higher than a 7. I haven't needed, I don't know, it's not something where I look at poles. These do the trick. They're cheap too, relatively speaking. So spending $100 or $200 on some poles, it's just not really in my schedule of things, and cutting the weight there it doesn't feel like it's the problem right now. So for new hikers, I would recommend them. In truth, they are a little bit extra weight, but unless you are really sturdy and steady on your feet, these can help, balance out your journey and your trek. Now, I do have a kind of an Easter egg on this, and I'm hoping, I'll check the camera, let's see. That's good enough. So Easter trick on this, Easter egg, is I keep a foot, this is Gorilla Tape, but underneath that I keep a foot of, I think it's 1 inch, it's just shy of an inch, like 7/8 of an inch. I keep 12 inches of that. It's glow-in-the-dark tape. And the cool thing about the tape is that you can leave that at night on a sign or something if you want to communicate with people that may be coming in behind you. You may be seeing the next day. But a little bit of glow-in-the-dark tape is kind of fun to play with too. So it doesn't weigh anything. I keep it on both the poles to balance them out, and nobody really knows it's there. But kind of something fun that the kids like too. So a little glow-in-the-dark tape, little gaffer's tape in there for you. Add a little magic to your journey. This is an area, power, solar, so the problem is I soak up and use a lot of power when I'm out. And this was a solution for a long time. A lot of, destination hiking, destination backpacking, you get somewhere, you set it up. This is awesome. It's great. If you're in the desert and you got a lot of sun, you can put this on your backpack, actively charging this battery pack here. So the whole system in theory and in actuality is pretty awesome. But if you're through hiking, it's 2.4 pounds for all this stuff, right? For everything here. And I'll show you the Lucy light. Now this also housed on the trip 18-foot colored lights, but the solar unit on that failed. My wife sewed this. The solar unit on that failed, so I took it back. I would like to see the solar unit work, so I think it was just a unit issue. This is the Lucy pop-up light. So what did I like about this? I liked the fact that it gets me power. It works. It's functional. It works with my system. It just weighs a lot for what it is, because I can get a battery, a really awesome battery, for under a pound that will do the same thing. It'll charge all my stuff, and then all of this kind of goes away, and then I replace it with 2 cords with 3 different adapters on it. This goes away. This goes away. This is going away too. I love this for car camping. I love this having above my camp stove, or I should say my kitchen area, because it'll charge during the day. The solar panel will charge during the day, and then at night you have lights. And so this is really fun. It's because it's self-contained. It doesn't need batteries. So I like it for that. But for backpacking, it's a little bit on the heavier side. What are we looking at here for Miss Lucy by herself without the case? 4.45 ounces, 126 grams. So I like it, but I don't love it for backpacking. Real easy way to gain, well, a real easy way to gain performance, lose weight, is to replace this lamp. It's a great lamp. I love the concept of it. It's got the little Noctilite, this little diffuser that acts like a light, right? So it's a secondary kind of waterproofed little system, and I thought this was really just the bee's knees 7 years ago. But I think it's time for this to go bye-bye and replace with a non-battery rechargeable, because now that I'm going to a battery system with cords, I just want stuff that can be recharged, so I can charge it all up and then recharge it later without having to fumble with backup batteries. So easy way to improve this: 5.5 ounce, 156 gram headlamp is to replace it with something that's light and new and rechargeable. Here is a great opportunity to make improvements. So the medical and survival kit have gotten bloated, and it happens. You know, you always just want that extra stuff in there, and before you know it, you're packed to the gills. So I have given up trying to scale this back in its current state, because I think they're great for EDC, for my regular backpack to carry around with me all the time. It has some of the essential stuff that everybody needs. And now it's going to be basically a donor or a feeder for my other stuff, other kits. So now that I have that in my backpack, I've kind of come up with an alternative solution, and that's having the confinement of the Altoids tin. So you don't know, this is basically a teaser trailer for these two things that I've kind of gone a little OCD on. And I will tell you, they're 10 times better than their previous counterparts in many, many, many ways, mostly in the variety and quality of stuff within it. And so conceptually, the idea is I will have a personal effects bag accompanying me on the next trip that will act as the feeder, the donor for these two kits. These would be intended to be like 6-hour to 12-hour outside of camp kind of micro survival, micro medical kits, which then can be fed with stuff that's also at camp. But there's not too much overflow. Mostly it's just Band-Aids and things like that. Different varieties of ways to, you know, scrape yourself up or cut yourself or burn yourself. All these different things have different ways of being medicated. So the kit itself is limited not in the number of products, but just the volume of those individual products, which then can be fed, you know, like Band-Aids can be fed from the personal effects kit. So excited to show you guys those improvements. Why do you need a medical kit? You need some sort of kit, and you need some sort of survival kit for the basics: starting a fire, getting a signal to someone, cuts, scrapes, all these things that you can imagine. I'm not going to go into the depths of why you need these, but there's some good off the shelf kits available that you can expand upon, and that's kind of what I think most people do in the beginning. Is they'll go out and they'll say, oh, I need a kit, and so they'll look and find something like, oh, 2 people, 2 days, which honestly is bigger than most people need for a 4-day, to be truthful. So you find yourself the form factor that, you know, you're comfortable with, and then you fill it to the gills over time, and then you get through the process of, you know, this thing or that thing, and it refines. So then you find yourself confined to the case you're in. And so you find yourself, okay, well, there's nothing else I can do about that case. So you fill it to the gills. So it's nice to have these kind of self-contained units because they limit you in the sense that, okay, you have to keep the amount of stuff in here limited. And by effect, it limits, you know, you kind of micronize everything. You think of things differently, which is actually the biggest joy in this entire process is, okay, here's the problem. What's the different solution? And so in looking at micronization, then you say Band-Aids, and then you start saying, well, which Band-Aid's better than the other Band-Aid? Then you start going in down the Band-Aid corridor, and then you start wearing different Band-Aids every day just to figure out which one's better, which one lasts in showers, which one's this and this one's that. That's kind of what happens when you go down these rabbit holes. Nonetheless, this will be a great future episode, but for now, the medical kit did well. It's too big. Same with the survival, time to micronize. I definitely brought too much weight into the superstitions, and bulk for that matter. Going over personal effects, I brought in 1.7 pounds. That it can be dramatically reduced so easily with a little bit of thought and time. I'm not doing any reviews on these Eagle Creek. This is mostly for my airline travel stuff. So yeah, we've already made improvements. And as I mentioned before with the medical kit, I'm going to be using the personal effects to act as a feeder kit. So I'll have backup all the different types of Band-Aids. Everything that's in the little tiny medical kit will have some, if it has a disposable or renewable, reusable, like ibuprofen, it can be replaced with this stuff in the personal effects kit. So I've already been through the process of kind of deprecating certain things. We're right in the middle of it. So I'm probably gonna get rid of that, get a smaller bag that makes sense. These are way too bulky. We'll just get plastic bags and we'll solve that problem that way. And we can just number those by day and night. Things that I did enjoy that do work. I mean, these strips seem to be pretty cool. They act a lot like those mint strips, those Listerine things. They kind of come out as a sheet, they call them, leaf. So they've kind of got these little leaflets that then can be mixed with water. And I only used 2 out of the 4. I didn't do any laundry. And I didn't need shampoo. I don't know if you guys have noticed yet. Anyways, things I liked. This little clothesline is super fun. I had a lot of fun. It's light as I'll get out. Total weight on this thing is 0.95 ounces, 28 grams. I'm off screen. 28 grams. It's a lovely little system. Clips around a tree branch around something, and then you can hang things. I appreciate this. It's a definite winner. Great. Sunscreen, little guy, sure, it works. So in this little tiny, I like the form factor on it. I'll be breaking those down when I finalize the personal effects stuff. But moving on, Band-Aids, alcohol pads, anti-itch cream, burn gel, anti-itch cream, alcohol wipes, triple antibiotics, cream, sort of like Neosporin, but a mixture of them. And then just various Tylenol, Claritin, Advil, Pepto-Bismol wrapped in tinfoil. Microfiber cloths for any number of reasons, anti-diarrheal. So there'll be other things I'm adding to this. Going to be micronizing the toothbrush and the toothpaste, all that stuff. And then I'll be doing my daily medications in little plastic bags numbered. So that's how we're going to get weight shaved off. There's a lot of improvements here that are easy, fairly cheap. And so things that we already have, like little plastic bags. So that goes up for personal effects. Definitely going to cut weight here. I did bring a sunglasses kit from my EDC bag. And again, it's too heavy. It doesn't make much sense when you think about the value that it brings in. So instead of bringing in this bag and these things in the future, I took basically the microfiber wipes and put them in my personal effects bag. We'll get rid of this. And the only thing we really need is just this case for sunglasses to keep them from getting scratched up. That's it. Pretty basic. Total weight on the case itself, 1.6 ounces, 45 grams. On with the art bag. So the art bag, this is one of those things where intention usually falls in the face of reality. But I always have this idea that I'm going to get out there and have the time and the energy to do some art. And it typically doesn't work out, but sometimes it does. So I do it anyways. But I had to rethink kind of really what I was bringing out. And on this concept right now. The journal, too heavy. However, very useful. I'll give you a little sneak peek into some of the things in here. But I will be doing these diagrams. These are part of the BIVY that my wife created. I am going to be doing some work on mushroom designs for the Amanita, or the medical kit. But I've got this concept that just hit me, and this is just a teaser. But I got this idea that I'm going to encapsulate my trip to the Superstitions with the painting in the back of a Altoids tin and a 3D tree and tent, kind of making a diorama of sorts. So it's good, but I didn't create that while I was hiking. So we're going to not bring a journal like that, and we're going to figure out how to replace it with something a little more reasonable. Also, the contents of the other bag, I mixed it up a bit. So I'm using some older stuff that I have, but I think these actually make the most sense. And these are gouache. I'm going to pronounce that incorrectly. I always do. Gouache. Anyways, these are pigment, basically heavy watercolor, water-based, kind of work like acrylics. But yeah, we're going to mix those up. I've got Sculpey, which is basically a clay that you can fire at the oven at 275, or depending on the instructions of the clay. And this is what I'm going to sculpt that tree out of. But these little guys, I've shown this before, got a couple mandalas in there. My favorite one's the fish. But this will stay. Nice little tiny journal. I'm going to go with, for numerous reasons, I need to tip these in a way. Just I'm going to bring some pencils in. And these are Blackwings. I really like black wings, and I'll just bring my pencil sharpener. The cool thing with this is we can use the shavings as tinder for fire, so there's a dual purpose to bringing that in. Sharpie, of course, and then for a notebook, I'm going to give this a shot. There's our basically our color. I'll show that in a second, but this is a waterproof outdoor journal thing. I liked that brought me attention is the grid. It's got a light grid, which I really appreciate. As you can see, I like things with grids. And that allows me to use some really light tools to make mandalas, and just these really Statler, they're cracking. I might need to find a permanent replacement for them that's metal, but for now, plastic light works, does the job. So, oh yeah, let's look into this. So basically, you can create every color by mixing the three primaries in black and white. So I'm going to put this kit to the test and just use this kit to create that diorama I was mentioning, and I'll make an episode on that. And I'll only spend up to 8 hours on it. And after that 8 hours, we'll call it a day and see where we're at. Fire it up and yeah, show it off. But that is the art kit. Oh, I forgot to kind of chime in on some of the ideas for the kit itself, and I'm just kind of giving you kind of my notes. But I'm going to paint it with some UVs. And so it'll glow under UV light, be easier to find at night. So a little bit of foreshadowing there, and then I'm going to be doing an updated painting on the bottom of the med kit and kind of a stylized med kit logo. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be fun. Food review, food review. I'm not going to be going into the dehydrated foods because I don't have the packaging anymore. That's just part of it. So we're going to go over this in general, talk about, first I'll go what didn't work. So I brought in stuff that I thought, oh, this would be novel, these Brad's greens, these salads. And I think that they work at home, but when you're hungry and you're on the trail, they just, for whatever reason, your body says, yeah, that's not really what I want right now. So let's get back to what your body really wants and the context in which we're feeding ourselves on the trail. So you don't want to think of this as like a breakfast, lunch, dinner type of scenario where you have big meals, you sit down. While that could be the case with a couple of these meals, dinner especially, you want to think about providing your body with a constant stream of energy throughout the day, throughout the trek. So there's a number of handy ways to do that. Some of them have more waste than others, but you need to feed your body. So I'd start with, depending on your diet or whatever, your tolerance for these nut butters, but any type of nut butter. Here we've got like peanut butter, almond butter, hazelnut and almond, all these different varieties, which are cool. I've tried these, they're fun. You have to warm them up, you have to rub them a bit to mix the oil in the package with the actual kind of the peanut butter stuff itself. But it only takes a couple minutes, warm it up, boom, and you've got yourself a nice meal on the go that gives you a little jump. Another good thing, of course, is the tried and true trail mix. This is Trek Mix from Trader Joe's. Whatever preference you have for that, that's just a really nice, fast, easy way of getting calories with a handful of trail mix. So those things are really good for protein and kind of a mixture of things with the trail mix. So things that you're gonna need and kind of the differentiation of things, I'll kind of move from basic sugars. Now, I've dug into each of these to try them out. But these stingers on the trail, Daniel, Prospector Daniel, and by the way, I've got a great announcement for the world. He shaved his beard off. I haven't seen him yet, but all I gotta say is thank God. Good job, good choice, Daniel. Back to our game. So he brought these Stinger chews. They're really good for on the fly, fast energy, sugar, boom, in your face. I like them, but I'm a sugar dude, especially on the trail. My favorite snack are these chamois from Trader Joe's, but the actual maker, Nalgene, has come out with these watermelon rings. They're good, But I actually like the Trader Joe ones better. Isn't that weird? It's kind of like saying you like Hydrox better than you like Oreos, I suppose, because this is supposed to be the front runner. But I like the other ones better. I like, they're both great because of the seasoning. They're so similar. But that is your fast sugars, or examples therein. Another fast sugar, and these have been discontinued, unfortunately. I really liked having these chocolate cannabinoids that had some CBDs in them. And the reason why I liked those, why I like these, they're no longer available. Just a little bit of CBD is really good for inflammation. You've been hiking all day. Did chocolate, dark chocolate, another really good thing for you. These are all heavy in cacao, simple, really good, and I enjoy them. They're single serving too, so these are fantastic. There's going to be other things just like them or similar to them, but a little chocolate with CBD is nice to have on the trail. So let's get into our more kind of away from your simple sugar and sugar jolt things. These are borderline. They have very little fiber in them, but they do have fiber. And that'll balance out sort of the sugar part of it. But all of these, roughly the same amount of sugar and fiber, less than 2 grams of fiber, and sugars around 10 or so for each of these. Sugars. Where's the sugar? 18 grams. So yeah, so these are pretty high in sugars. You're going to get that jolt, which is good. Now, these, and this, I think these are got either at Sprouts or Trader Joe's as well. Trader Joe's. So these are probably Sprouts. Other types of sugar that is really beneficial on a trail, and should be no surprise, baby food with fiber protein made from things. Now these are expensive, but they're really nutrient rich. They've got high fiber, low sugar. So the sugars in here are lower. They're like less than 10, 7, some of them. Sugar 6. So yeah, we're really low on 11. So this one's the highest. And then we've got sugars 10. So yeah, 3-4 grams of fiber with those. The downside when you're backpacking with these things is the packaging. So when you're done, you got this unruly plastic clip that you're not going to leave in anywhere. You got to bring that back with you. So that's kind of the downside, is you got to take care of the packaging when it's done. But that's the downside to packaging to begin with. So we try to minimize that when we can. So to be warned, those things are the issue with baby food. But honestly, these things taste great. They got everything you need, as you would expect with baby food and growing babies. Fun things that Daniel also brought that introduced me to are these crispy chews. They're so much fun. They're like little tiny treats. They're treats. Treats. Little beet treats with like little seeds, and they're just fun. This is a fun little snack. I really enjoyed those. And then mix it up with a little bit more fiber protein. These tot things. And these are fun too. They're also got a little bit of crunch to them. So they're enjoyable to eat. The texture's nice. So yeah, so there we go with some more advanced sort of delivery systems for sugar and other nutrients. Can't go wrong also with just fruits. These go really good. Pre-mixing those with the oatmeal. And back to Prospector Daniel's oatmeal, he's working on his formula. He is trying to come up with the most nutritious formula out there right now with no boundaries to cost. So we'll have to figure out what that's going to be. But he is on it, and that's going to be exciting. And these are one of the things that I prefer in one of his recipes, is to have these, any type of dehydrated strawberries. Just tastes so good. Another thing that I just noticed isn't represented, which is probably the most go-to, is beef jerky or any type of dried meat, dried jerkied meat, high in calories, fun to chew on, lasts on the trail. So a good source of protein, obviously. And yeah, so that would be like the other addition to this. But typically, you're going to get your high calories out of those dehydrated bags, but you want to continuously give your body stuff it needs, because you're going to be depleted of nutrients, you're going to be depleted of minerals, you're going to be depleted of electrolytes, and you have to get those back in your system. Otherwise, you can kind of lose your bearings and lose your focus and then make a bad step. So yeah, that kind of covers food. I would love to hear, we could talk about pemmican and other more advanced foods, I'm sure, in other episodes. If you want to get into super crazy high calorie focused, for dedicated, let's say, if you are a fanatic on the lightweight thing and you want to really bring in calories for cost per pound, we could do a pemmican video. I don't necessarily enjoy it. In fact, I don't enjoy pemmican, but I do appreciate its value. Would I enjoy a trip with pemmican only? Not if I had a choice. In fact, I'd kind of steer away from that, but look it up. We'll do a primer on it at a later episode. But yeah, that covers it for food. And I think the most important thing is just finding the stuff that you actually enjoy. And then when it's on the trail, you're going to enjoy it so much more. It's like a amplifier out there. So no morning or food discussion in context of camping and backpacking, hiking. It all starts with either tea or coffee for most of us. So I'm typically a tea guy, and I really enjoy this variety. So I have, my sleepy time tea. I've got a green tea in the morning with some CBDs again for inflammation, optional Earl Grey. This cloud creamer actually is really good. I would recommend it. But it's unsweetened, and so are these teas, and so I hauled in these. I finally found my honey, and these are just fun. Again, a really good source of quick sugar. But Daniel brought these, and I'm not a daily coffee drinker because of the acidity, but Daniel brought these, and these things are self-contained little packets that have sugar and creamer in them. And I thought these things were just, as my grandma might say, the bee's knees. So these are honestly wonderful. So I'll be balancing out having 2 of these. If I did a 4-day again, I'd do 2 of these and maybe 2 teas, and that would limit me to 2 honeys and a creamer. So a little bit of variety. But yeah, this is all up to you. We went in with boiling water, so we didn't have a percolator. We didn't have any type of coffee making stuff. So in this trip, it was restricted to what can we do with boiling water. And this is, great examples of what you can do with boiling water. There's a few pieces of gear that I haven't touched upon that are necessary and should be included. And the reason I didn't include them is because a lot of the time it's when you go on these group hikes or hikes with other people, you end up exchanging responsibilities, and you take certain things in. So if somebody has a tent, you may carry the poles for that and the tarp or whatever. If somebody has a water purifier, another guy may have a stove. So in those cases, you just omit certain things that your hiking buddies might be bringing in as duplicates, right? And so 3 of those things that are of note that I will be exploring. Well, one is a tent, of course. We used Prospector Daniel's tent. I have a tent. We'll get into that as its own item. But another thing is just a scoop or a shovel of sorts for personal waste. That's a necessary product. We had 2 of those on the trip. And then, didn't need it on this trip, but it's something I've wanted to have, is a saw. And I've had numerous saws. I've had some of the fold outs that are really good. I like those a lot, especially if you are going to be at a permanent camp or semi-permanent camp for a while. They're fun. They're really nasty though. You definitely have to bring in gloves. I've cut myself on those and the cuts are nasty. So that's the downside with those blades, but they're great. Axe would be nice, but they're heavy. So I'm going to be looking into kind of the smaller side of town. We didn't need it in the Superstitions because everything was dry enough to snap, and we found a lot of manzanita that was dead due to the burnout a few years ago. So there was a lot of carbon options out there to burn that were easy to snap with your hands and with your knees and stuff. But it's been wet here in Colorado. I'm going to test out a little mini saw and see how that works as a micronized option before I invest in a larger kind of bushcraft type saw again. So yeah, I think those three things are necessary. You know, of course, shelter, part of the big three, and then personal shovel, and yeah, a saw or an axe option or something to cut wood. That's the point. The problem is sometimes you get out there, it's a little bit green and you don't want to break your knees, so you need some kind of saw. But that wraps it up. I think the trip itself was just awesome the way it was. Of course, I would have preferred to see all of our friends there, but that's what the beauty is of having this annual trip. So we get to figure it out next year, adapt and move on, and hopefully see everyone's happy faces and have a more enjoyable next year. Bring some fellas from Colorado with me. So thanks for tuning in. We'll finish out with the retro, the post-mortem, and look at some data, and then we'll call it an episode. All right. In all sincerity, I love spreadsheets. And this spreadsheet in particular is quite awesome because it has every data point that I've currently collected on all the equipment that I reviewed in the previous two in this episode. And I just wanted to show you guys that this spreadsheet's going to be evergreen in a sense. Now down here, I'm going to point the mouse down here. Down here is going to be a tab, and right now that's episode 1 through episode 7, 2023. And so that'll represent a static list of what was on that trip in the Superstitions. As I update my list, this tab will have current gear after episode 7. So episode 8, I'll come up with a current, but it will still be the same link. You can find this link if you like spreadsheets and craziness like that. You can find that right here in a drop down. All I have to do is open up the video. It says spreadsheet. It has a Google link. So you can download this, do what you want with it. The data points I've collected are kind of a little bit more than most people, if it requires power or not, waterproof or not. I say where it is located in my bag or on my person, who makes it. I do weight in ounces, also weight in grams. I do have a retail column, number of products. In future videos, I'm going to be expanding this to include a number of unique products within, because we have medical kits, survival kits, other things that have multi-functions, and I wanted to point those out. And that also brings me to products themselves that have specific multi-functions. I'm going to create a column like that. But for now, right now, we have rating on my scale. I point out star products for their reasons. If something would be considered ultralight in its category, and then also if things are considered ultra comfortable or uber comfortable in their category. I'll have links to where you can see these things, review, do more research yourself. So these lists will be evergreen, and so this list will be permanent with that link as long as it's up. So that being said, let's get back to the sheet real quick. Yeah, so we basically have all these data points. I summarize them, weight, aggregate those in both ounces and grams. And yeah, it's quite extensive. And so if you find any mistakes, point them out to me. That's totally fun and awesome. But I like the concise data point on all this. I like knowing the weight. And when you do it this way, it is surprisingly accurate. So that's all I had to say. These spreadsheets for you, for your consumption. So have fun with them. And if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. But back to the regular rescheduled. So let's wrap up this post-mortem / retrospective. So we went over sections of what I brought in, and we talked from a high level on some of these systems here. So I've determined my backpack currently, it's 5.8 pounds with all those carabiners and stuff that I carry common. The only way down from that is to get a lighter pack. That's not on my list right now. That's really expensive. But goal being spring next year, Goal is to try to find an alternative pack that can suffice, that drops some poundage. Same with the sleep system. This is where I can make the most gains. I'm bringing in now 9.4 total weight after that insulator. And that's just too much. So goal for next year, we get down to 4 pounds. Now where we can make really cheap gains is the hydration system. Like I said, for groups, the Guardian is great, or a pump system is wonderful. And that's something that if you do have a group, you can trade with. And so you've probably noticed that I haven't brought up tent because that particular trip, Daniel brought the tent. However, in the future, I'm going to be bringing mine. So I'm going to gain 4 pounds with the tent. We're going to have to figure out how to lose some poundage. And I think the hydration system, if everyone had their own hydration system, then I could get down to sub 1 pound pretty easily. As far as cooking systems, I want to actually expand my cooking system. So counter to the weight desires, I want to get a better cooking system that has more modulation, allows me to cook different things and not just boil water. And so that's going to be exploratory. That's fairly expensive in comparison, but when you're talking about sleep systems being hundreds and hundreds of dollars for lightweight stuff and backpacks being hundreds and hundreds of dollars, cooking systems at $100 or something around there is a little bit less, so that's why it's a 2. I'm not going to be updating my chair, my trekking poles. I'm happy with them. My power and battery, this is huge gains can be made here. I'm ditching I'm going to keep those around for car camping and other ways of generating power, but not backpacking anymore. So I'm going to go with the battery system. That'll drop a lot of weight. AV equipment is going to stay static for now. I like it. It's still kind of bulky, but I'm happy with the results that it's giving me thus far and getting my message across, so it'll suffice for now. Medical and survival kit, I have gone deep on that because this is relatively cheap with your own stuff, but figuring out the best Band-Aids, figuring out the best things within there, comparing little tiny details, that takes a little bit of money. So it's not the cheapest way to lose weight, but I can effectively already have shaved a pound. Personal effects, another area where I can get rid of the bulky plastic stuff, replace it with plastic bags, and then micronizing everything. This is fairly cheap, can be done, just with around the house stuff. Artifacts, that's my own decision. I can cut weight there, I already have. Clothing, I'm kind of just leaving that static for next year as well. So what does this give us for projections? If I were to follow this plan, I would result in a net loss of 13.6 pounds, going from 37.1 base weight, so to speak, to 23.5. So the goal next year is quite simply 2024, when we have our reunion trip on this one, going with base of 23.5 plus my tent, so 27.5 base. Food, projecting 7 pounds, and then I'll go in with 1.5 water. And so my goal next year, quite simply, 36 pounds and have a wonderfully light and comfortable trip, but really enjoy it. And hopefully we can coordinate next year with the weather and everything so that the whole group can be there. So that's my deepest desire, is to recover and get it going again and bounce back and make it better than before. So this is an extension trip that's been going on for over a decade. So, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but we're looking forward to next year. So thanks for your time. It's rough out there. Love one another. Have a great day, okay?